Welcome to Empire Building. I'm Wendy Papazan, and together with my 4 co-hosts, we bring you weekly unfiltered conversations about leadership, growing a big empire, and living on your own terms.
I'm Kimber Lovett-Minkiti. We are investors and wealth builders with over $75 million in combined net worth.
I'm Sarah Reynolds. We are visionaries who built more than 50 businesses with over $122 million in annual revenue.
I'm Tiffany Fikes. We've led thousands of people and do it all while being pretty good moms.
And I'm Seychelle Van Poole. We are your podcast to learn how to build big businesses and even bigger lives.
Hi, everyone. It's Kimber and Wendy, and we are back for part 2 of our burnout episode. We just last week had a chance to unpack the first 2 of the 5 reasons you're burnt out and what you can do about it. And so we're excited to dive back in today.
Yay. Hi, Kimber. Good to see you.
It's always good to see you.
Glad to be back. Well, if you listened last time, you will remember that about at least 1/3 of us are burnt out right now. And especially if you've been in the real estate or any kind of sales industry, it's a really tough time. You know, the economy is not great. The real estate industry is very stressful. COVID was stressful. The market went way up. I know in my market, it's gone way down. I don't know what it looks like where you are, but it's just created a very stressful environment. And so those of us that have kind of slagged our way through it, we're just feeling it.
Yeah. And that stat is powerful. Like, right, 1/3 of women, more than men, right, report high levels of burnout. And the other side of that is that while women are more likely to experience it, they're also more likely to take action, right? I think this is such a powerful list because it's giving you some of the reasons, but also some of the actions you can take, sort of the antidote to help create that recovery space you need.
Yeah. So if you weren't here last week, we talked about the 5 reasons you're burnt out and what to do about it. Number 1 was you don't know what matters. And if you do, you're not prioritizing it. And number 2 was you think you can have it all, do it all, and know it all. Today, we're going to kick off with you take no time for recovery after your stress. So stress is not necessarily a bad thing. I think sometimes it gets a bad rap. But if you think about, what do you do when you weightlift, right? You break your muscles down and they get stronger. They get a lot stronger. And if you are weightlifting every single day, pretty soon you're not going to be able to do anything at all because you've given your muscles no time to recovery. So really our first one today is kind of reframing what stress is. And stress is not necessarily bad, but if you don't take any time for recovery, then it can be literally could kill you.
Well, I think think about us, right, as empire builders. I think a lot of our listeners, right, you signed up for a big life and that comes with stress. Like, that's part of what it means to build something big, is that it's going to have some stress in it. And so being able to really understand how you handle that, both physically, right? Just even thinking about something simple as like sleep and water. Anytime I'm not feeling great, I know that the 2 things I need to double down on my life are sleeping and water. Like, that alone. So simple, right?
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah. Well, there's all kinds of stresses, and we're going to talk about the recovery for each one of them. So yeah, Kimber's kicking us off with our physical stress. So when you're stressed physically, the way you combat that is you get some sleep. You eat well. You take control of what you're eating. For me, my stress keeps going on and on. All the sad things that happen. I mean, I have a lot of great things. I don't mean to be sad about it, but it's just been hard. A year ago, February, I had hip surgery. My mother-in-law died. I've had 2 kids graduate from high school. I brought my dad to Texas. I brought my sister to Texas. My dad ended up passing away. And it's just been a lot. It's been really hard. And so for me, finally, I've been able to kind of get control of what I'm eating. I'm actually using this great app. I haven't even shared it with you guys, but it's called My Body Tutor. But it just helps me be really mindful about what I'm eating. It's not really a diet app. It's just helping me be really mindful. But just having control over what you're putting in your body makes you feel a lot better.
It really does.
Yeah. And then time off. Are you taking breaks?
Just take the breaks. And I feel like sometimes for me, when I know especially right now in the real estate industry, it's intense, right? I'm having a lot of hard conversations. It's a struggle in the industry right now for a lot of people. And so for me, the physical recovery is what helps me level set. Taking a walk, getting out and getting fresh air, just having that physical time is the recovery that helps me in the other areas. So finding that for you, being able to build it in and then making sure it becomes part of your schedule. And ideally, it becomes part of your regular daily schedule.
Love it.
Next one up is mental.
Yeah, mental recovery. Yeah. So again, sleep.
I'm like, sleep comes again.
Yeah, sleep is so good. It's the number one thing that you're not doing that'll make you feel better. You want to read for pleasure?
Or listen if you're an Audible girl like me.
Yeah. Either one. I mean, reading for pleasure can look like O Magazine.
Yes.
I was talking to my friend Kim. Hello, shout out to Kim. She was telling me, she never ever used to read for pleasure. Never. Always business books. Your mind can use a break.
Exactly. That's a nice way to just do it.
And you've got meditation, yoga, creative outlets. Before I was in real estate, I was a really creative person. Now, not so good. I'm working on that. That's on my goals.
Yeah. Well, even thinking about I know I ask a lot of busy, powerful women, what their hobbies are. And people kind of look at me because I would look at me that way too. Just that creative space. We sometimes forget that that's a thing that is a great way to recover. What are the things you enjoy doing? Or maybe you don't, but it's you don't think you're good at it, but it's because you're not doing it. And you don't have to be good at it. What's the thing you could do that just allows you to work a different part of your muscle, your mind?
Yeah. Yep.
Next up is emotional, right? Creating an outlet for expression. This is where I know our circle has been super powerful for me, right? Having those nurturing relationships, adopting a gratitude practice, meditation shows up again, right? And a lot of us, we fostered a dog in the last year, which has been equal parts amazing and challenging, all those things. What are the ways that you both feel connected? I think that relational side and emotional, where's the places where you can take off your armor, be vulnerable, say exactly what you need to say. And that's a big part of recovery. Sometimes I have to say, I just need to get this out. I know it's going to sound like I'm complaining about something, but I need to just unload this because I need to put it out in the world. And then we can move on to the solutions.
Yeah, it's weird because that's how you create vulnerability and intimacy, by sharing the hard things that are going on. And so many of us, we've been taught not to share them.
Yeah.
I don't want to burden anyone with this hard thing. And yet when you share it, then, your friends or the people around you, actually, you grow closer to them because they appreciate that you're not perfect.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, Brene Brown says shame can't survive in the light. And I think sometimes it's that we're taught not to share and we're shameful of what that is, right? We failed at something, we didn't succeed in an area we thought we should. And being able to do that really neutralizes that, because you also realize that which is deeply personal is universal. So the thing you're struggling with really creates connection. I know that we find that a lot, right? When people share something vulnerable, they usually get an influx of people saying, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah.
How can I help?" Or I'm experiencing that too. And you realize it is a universal challenge.
Yeah, for sure. It does feel good. It's also hard. When my dad died, it's hard to get everyone coming up to you all the time and sending you messages saying, "I'm so sorry. You must be so sad. It happened to me too." That's hard. But at the same time, it is that human connection, and not having that would be really hard.
It's really hard too.
Yeah. Well, then you have spiritual. So the way you recover spiritually is through prayer, right? Accepting love, accepting someone's time. I think so many of us, we don't accept love. We don't accept other people's time. We think we've got to do it all ourselves. And so that's a form of spirituality, is accepting love.
Recognizing that you're worthy of that, that you deserve that love, that you deserve that connection, that there are people that want to support you. And a lot of times we're the block to being able to receive that. And so if you're feeling really stretched and you're feeling really burned out, knowing that you actually likely have people in your world who just need to know that they could be a resource for you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that just means you have to pause and ask that question.
Yeah. Well, and then financial stress, you want to have ample reserves, follow a wealth plan, right? What does that look like for you? Do you have a wealth plan? Do you know what your wealth goals are? Do you have a community that's going to help you get there? Pay down your debt. So many of you are struggling with debt. Get a hold of your debt. That can be crushing.
Creates a lot of stress.
Yeah, a lot of stress. And then also save for and pay for taxes.
Have a plan.
Yeah, some of you come off of maybe the best couple years in your real estate career, and maybe you spent a lot more than you should have, thinking it was going to continue.
It would be this way forever.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's hard because I think it's just easier sometimes just to put your head in the sand and think it's going to go away. And really, the hard thing to do that's going to make you feel better is to really sit down and get in tune with your numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I think about the Net Worth Club that we have, right? Which you can learn more about at networthclub.com. But just having a tracking, just creating that visibility into like having to write it all down. What are the assets? What are the liabilities? What are the expenses? Sometimes you look up and you're like, whoa, like I'm a net worth millionaire, or I've got a goal now that I can go against. And so sometimes when you're thinking about the financials and that you're in a hard or you've got a lot going on, but you're trying to hit a goal around it, it's really powerful. So I think that's a great resource that we'd invite people to do, because I think having that and having a community around it is really powerful as a way to like create space to celebrate it and to get some momentum.
That's so good. And we're calling this recovery, but it's really kind of self-care. It's a kind of financial self-care. I mean, it's great if you go get your nails done every month and that's self-care to you, but paying your taxes is also self-care. And it's something that you need to prioritize and think about as self-care, instead of like, oh, it's a burden, I don't want to do it. No, guess what? You're caring for yourself. It's called financial self-care.
I love that. Next up is relationships, right? How do we recover in our relationships? Through conversations, I love this quiet intimacy, hug, touch, journaling, even counseling, right? Using that time to really invest and pour into yourself. So really thinking about you, reflecting on what are the key relationships. We talked about number one, being clear on what your priorities are, being clear on who your priorities are, and making sure that they're reflected in your schedule. Are you spending time with the most important relationships in your life? Are they showing up on your calendar, like intentional time? Because a lot of times we say that we've got these people and they're so important to us, but the schedule would not reflect that. But they're not getting the time that would indicate that they're the most important priorities in our worlds. I know that's a big challenge for me.
And for me, my sister moved down here. I want to spend time with her. My mom lives down here. She's 78 years old. And we just decided that the three of us are going to go out for lunch. We're going to have brunch every Sunday. So now it's on my calendar and that's going to be my thing. I don't want to look up and say, gosh, something happened or I didn't see her, or, we don't need to have lunch every day, but maybe you do. Maybe you need to have lunch every day with someone. But what does that look like? And especially, your primary relationship, it's really important to figure out what you need to do. Like, what is your love language, right? You need to figure out what their love language is. You need to really spend time doing that.
I love that your brunch example, like not leaving it up to chance, right? Like creating some consistent on an ideal week when you're not traveling, you don't have a lot of things, like every Sunday that you're in town, you have brunch. Mm-hmm. Every Wednesday night, right? You and Jay go on a date night. Like just creating that cadence holds the space. I have a good friend who has an amazing special needs daughter. And so her husband, like literally just, they don't feel like they have any time to do that. And one of the things I've really been pressing her on is like, get a sitter that every week, there's one night a week that she's coming. And even if you guys like walk around the block together, you go to the grocery store, it doesn't have to be some big fancy, the best restaurant in town, but like just prioritize and have it be consistent. It was the best gift that I had was like when my boys were younger and I didn't have a live-in sitter, there were 2 nights a week that I just knew that I had already blocked someone. They were already booked. And so the time was already held to be able to then intentionally use that time how I needed to for my own recovery, even if it just was, I'm going to go upstairs and take a nap because I knew that on Thursdays, somebody was going to be there to help in the evenings after school.
I love that. And then the last one is, business recovery. Are you time blocking your playtime first and then your work time? So both are important. It's what Kimber talked about earlier. Are you sort of leveraging the things, but keeping the things that you need to do to make money? So time block your playtime, but then also time block the time that you're going to use to generate revenue for your business. And then this sounds so simple, but I know for me, you just got to take a break, right? The research says everybody needs a break at least every 90 minutes. Okay, I can guarantee you that both Kimber and I have days where we're literally saying like, I need 2 minutes to go to the bathroom. And that's what we get.
I know. I was literally, when you were jumping on a call a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm late. I just have to go to bed. But he was like, she was like, just take your time, take a breath. But I think building that time blocking is so important because when we schedule, we talked about this on the earlier episode, when you time block so tightly that you were literally, and we kind of got into this in the COVID world because in the Zoom world, you could bounce between Zoom rooms, which was equally not great. So imagine if you just moved 1 hour meetings to 45 minutes. So you never blocked 1 hour meetings. You don't really need a 45-minute meeting if you have an agenda ahead of time, you know what you're going on, or just thinking about the block of time.
You can do that if you use Google Calendar. I actually do that. There's a box you can check that says schedule 50-minute meetings. And so all your meetings show up as 10 to 10:50 or, 11 to 11:50 or whatever it is. So pro tip for you right there.
Pro tip.
Yeah, worth the price of admission.
I love it.
All right. Well, number 4 is, the reason you're burnt out is, we alluded to this a little bit earlier when we were talking about the financial recovery, which is you don't know your numbers, especially when it comes to finances. I can remember when my business was growing really fast and, I was a journalism major. I didn't know anything about running a business, nothing about numbers. And so here I am, all of a sudden I'm making over $1 million a year. I'm making $2 million a year. I'm getting a P&L. Like I know enough to have hired a bookkeeper to give me a P&L, but I don't know how to read it. Nobody showed me how to read it. So I'm done the right thing, but then I don't know how to read it or I don't want to because I don't want to know what it says. Sometimes it's better not to know. So for me, I ended up hiring a coach. And every single week we sat down, we just went over the P&L over and over again till it became not scary anymore.
That's right.
Yeah. And so that was really important for me. And so I think business-wise and personally, it's really important.
Well, I think knowing your numbers, especially as it relates to where your business and came from. So I just had my team do this exercise. I mean, everybody go back and source all of their transactions. Where did all the business come? Where literally, not where you thought it came from, but where it actually. And then we literally said, I want all the detail about the triggering event. Because we talk a lot about sometimes in the real estate space, SOI. Oh, they were my SOI. Okay, but that's great. But are they really one in your SOI? And then what was the triggering event? Did you do an event that they came to? Did they connect with on social media? So that you could actually go hold your time accountable and figure out, are you actually spending the time against the right thing? And so this knowing your numbers, knowing where things come from, where are your leading indicators, what activity do you need to be doing? In our business, you can feel really busy. And this is a key around burnout. You can feel like you've been super busy. But if you actually haven't hit any of your leading indicators for the week, you didn't do anything productive. And so you have to know what that is so that you can time block it, prioritize it, and then give yourself permission to say no to the things that aren't in that space.
That's so wise, Kimber. That's just so good. Yeah. And then you want to make sure, Kimber said it before, but if you are struggling with your personal finance, please join us at Net Worth Clubs. Go to networthclub.com. It's a part of our sister company, Her Best Life, that we don't talk about very much. Shout out to Deb Pierce, who's our amazing organizer of Net Worth Club. Come, there's a small charge to join. And every single month, you're going to get incredible speakers and they're going to help you with your kind of personal financial tracking.
Yeah. When you talked about getting a coach, I think particularly for women, we are intimidated by all the numbers and the financials. And so we don't know or we don't want to ask. And so this, I think, creates a community and a space where you do get to ask the hard questions. You get to hear high-level conversations around money and wealth building and just set a word on tracking. So I know for me, having community around this has created a lot less fear around just digging into what is. And then ultimately, you grow it.
Well, and I'll tell everybody something that men don't know how to do it better than you do anyway.
They don't.
They really don't. Jay, my husband and I went to the 4-day MBA. It was Keith Cunningham's 4-day MBA. It's really expensive. It costs $7,000. And you're essentially taking 4 full days. They're really long days, 12-hour days. You get a binder that's insane. It's bigger than an old-fashioned Bible. And what was really fascinating for me is I walk into this room, there's probably a couple hundred people in this room, maybe 300. And there's very few women. And my aha wasn't that women shouldn't get their MBA. It was really these guys don't know what they're doing either. That's why they're here.
Yep.
Right? So here they were putting in the time, the effort, the money to learn, just like I was. And, where are all the other ladies, right?
That's right.
Hopefully not putting your head in the sand. Yeah.
And stop telling yourself that I'm not good at numbers. I don't like math. I don't have to worry about that. No, you do.
Yeah.
And it's like anything, right? Once you get started, it might not feel good in the beginning, but it's going to feel really good when you feel like you understand your financials and you've got, that stability in your life.
Yeah. Yep. Love it.
All right. Number 5, our final one, and one of my favorites, right? You don't understand that it's actually not all about winning. It's about who you become along the way.
So good.
Yeah, that's a big one. I love that one.
Yeah, I love this one because I know for me, for so many years, it was all about, grow. How can I get to the top of my office? How can I be number 1 in my state? How can I, rise inside of our brokerage, Keller Williams? And actually the year It was 2018. I made $3 million that year in my real estate business. My team was rocking, but I was literally burnt out. I mean, that's really what happened. I was very detached. I couldn't do it anymore. I was not invested in the business. I was letting other people make decisions for me. And then about 90% of my team exited that year. And it was true trauma. It's the worst thing that ever has happened to me.
Professionally, yeah.
Because I had people who, they've been with me 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And at the time, my business was only about 10 years old. So I was the team where everybody stayed. But it was actually a true gift because I was able to have this realization that it's just not about more. It's really about you get to decide what's important to you, right? What are my priorities? So I got to go back, rebuild my business and do it the way that I wanted to. And that's been a true gift.
And I think we are in such an achievement, like in the US, right? It's a high drive, achieve, win. And whose game are you playing? What's the win, right? Like,
what's your goalpost?
Yeah.
Well, guys, today has been great. Hopefully you were able to tune into both episodes, both last week and this week, and learn the 5 reasons that you're burnt out and what to do about it. So last episode, we covered you don't know what matters most to you and you're not prioritizing it. You think you can do it all, have it all, and know it all. And today we talked about recovery, the importance of recovery if there's stress, and the importance of understanding your numbers, both personally and professionally. And then this idea that it's really about the journey. It's really about what you learn and who you become. And it's not really about external metrics of achievement, which so many of us are shooting for. It's really about, can you become the best person that you were meant to be? Because that is truly a goal for every single one of us. Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us. Continue to go out there and build your big business and even bigger life. Bye.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the guest represent those of the guest and not KWRI and its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information.